It's Valentine's week, so that means we have horror movie romance, we have action movie romance, time-jumping romance, and I finally see the Oscar-nominated Anora in case you want to spend the holiday at the strip club. Let's get started.
You know what? I'm gonna kill your little ass. This really stuck. Little spider monkey ninja god.
Yeah, love hurts like 20 knife wounds to the chest and a straw through the eyeball. Directed by a stunt coordinator of John Wick, the film is a mixture of a regular 9-to-5 day guy who has a violent past, only here it's mixed with a Jackie Chan-style action physical comedy, and also the ironic, hammy tone of the big hit, complete with some of the same set pieces like a fight in a video store. This one counts on the likability of its lead to carry most of it, and he's the best part. Ke Huy Quan has an immediate charm, and the movie brings out a lot of his strengths in the fight sequences and his comedic timing. On the one hand, it's cool to see this career resurgence of his, and for him to be headlining a movie like this. On the other hand, this movie is unfortunately really bad. From beginning to end, it has the aura of something completely butchered in editing, from the cynical attempts to make it a Valentine's movie, which comes across like an afterthought in a later draft. Individually, Quan and Ariana DeBose are very good here, but this love story angle is so wildly forced that the two have no romantic chemistry. There's parts where it really seems like a romance added in reshoots or cobbling together footage out of context. The only good chemistry is that of his co-worker and a hitman, but even that felt like padding. This is an 80-minute movie with way too many characters. It forces us into the action so quick that we really don't have time to care about the plot, and 10 minutes in, they've introduced about 10 different characters, all who come with shtick and are trying to out-steal the movie from one another. It could work if it was at least funny, but the jokes and dialogue are terrible. Right down to bad ADRing on people whose heads are turned or their faces conveniently obscured. They condensed the movie so hard that they had to add in narration from characters to describe what they're thinking, what the other person is thinking, what their backstory is. This has a scene of characters doing an exposition dump, and it's only for the audience, because the two doing the exposition were there during the backstory they're describing. The only side characters that come out okay are Sean Astin, and it's nice seeing him and Quan back together 40 years after the Goonies, and Drew Scott has a funny scene as a competing realtor. There's fights that are cool, and they do clever camera work too, like a POV from a microwave or a fridge. It can also be a mixed bag sometimes, like it'll hold on some punches for so long, which would take me out of it because then it feels like what it is, choreography in a movie, complete with some henchmen that are such bad shots, it's almost parody, but not quite. This was a D+. The lead is great, but you're better off watching one of 100 movies that share the same story, but do it better. Coming up next, it's another movie that talks about straws and has a shot through a hole in someone's head. Stay tuned.
You ditched me.
What?
We were a team.
I was being chased by a serial killer.
I know.
Heart Eyes is a new slasher where a killer lurks around with literal heart eyes, and if you're a character straight out of a screwball romance, he wants you dead. I love that I watched this right after writing a Cinema Snob episode on the 2001 film Valentine, which is a movie that could have been better if it really embraced rom-com tropes and then added in a serial killer. Luckily, this movie does just that. From two extremely charming leads to cinematography that would make you think it's a date movie if you're channel surfing, to clothes-changing montages and wacky supporting characters in full comedy mode. Where Love Hurts looked like a movie where Valentine's Day was shoehorned in, this movie embraces cheesy romance and blood-soaked mayhem and blends the two genres seamlessly. I like that it starts like its own sequel, too, where the Heart Eyes killer has already been striking for a few years now, and society is kinda used to it. People walk around on the streets dressed like him, and restaurants incorporate metal detectors just in case he shows up. Hell, the leads are more worried when the internet mob comes after them after they make a tone-deaf Valentine's ad that needs to be rewritten. If only their love for each other doesn't get in the way. This is a very entertaining movie with rapid-fire lines that can get a laugh even when someone is talking in the background, or you might overhear an extra say something humorous, like you're walking around in an open-world game. Even the death scenes themselves can sometimes get a laugh, and other times are actually pretty horrifying. It's also uniquely its own thing, meaning you can watch this back-to-back with My Bloody Valentine and not feel like you're just watching the same movie again. The only thing that really keeps it from being in the A category is that the last 15 minutes are a little rocky. It's not that surprising who the killer is, and when the reveal does happen, it comes with a monologue for no reason other to explain things. But even then, I was still like, why are you doing this? There's also one too many endings, but overall, it's a very good B+. If it's an ultra-violent and funny horror date movie you're looking for, you'll have a pretty great time here. Up next, they're bringing all the Oscar nominees back to theaters, so I finally got a chance to see Anora. Stay tuned.
Welcome back, Mr. Zakharov. Your suite is almost ready.
You mean I have to wait? You mean we have to wait right now, bro, yes?
Anora has 6 Oscar nominations, including one for Best Actress, which is very much a well-deserved nomination for. Mikey Madison is that good here, and really goes all out in bringing this electric character to life. In it, she plays a stripper in Brooklyn, who meets a wealthy, spoiled young Russian student named Vanya, who loves drinking, drugs, video games, and banging, so the two get married on a whim so he can stay in the United States. Like I said, the performance of the lead pretty much makes the movie worth a watch alone, because everything else, I thought this movie was just okay. For every character I like, there's tons that are just downright obnoxious. Hanging with Vanya and his friends is like being the only sober one at a party that you really just want to freaking leave. This is a movie hinged on these two getting together and the consequences of it, but they make this character so damn unpleasant to a fault that I really didn't give a rat's ass how this marriage was gonna play out. The movie gets better when this character is in it less, but even then, it's a 2-hour and 20-minute movie where a lot of it is spent going from business to business trying to locate him when he goes missing, when the answer is pretty obvious where he is. And then the rest is padded out with so much screaming and arguing that if I didn't have a headache going in, I sure as hell did leaving it. That said, I actually did like the ending. But goddamn, this thing is packed with so much freaking yelling that some of it could have been cut down a bit. It wouldn't have been that hard to trim this movie. And also, it was like watching a Bravo reality series disguised as an award-winning movie. I don't know, man. I love the lead. I really like the cinematography. I like the idea of the movie. There's some supporting characters I liked, like the two helpers trying to find the guy to get the marriage annulled. And there are good lines every now and then, but I really wish I enjoyed this more than I did. For me, this was a C, but I'm in the minority on this one, so maybe you all out there will like this better than I did, because I was looking at my watch a lot during it. Up next, another movie for Valentine's week that's all about love. Stay tuned.
I cannot help but seem to grieve for something I have lost.
Oh, is it your dildo, mistress? I found it under the bed.
If you think Timestalker will be your traditional rom-com pick for the weekend, relax. This one has multiple decapitations in it too. Written, directed by, and starring Alice Lowe, it plays on time-hopping romances with a dash of Monty Python, where love-struck Agnes is convinced the mysterious Alex is her soulmate, but before they can get to know each other in previous lives, she usually dies horribly, like being run over by a carriage or accidentally falling onto an axe. In some time periods, he's a Robin Hood type, and in others, he's a pop star, but the more it goes on, the more she's basically a reincarnated stalker to this man. And not only that, her own brutish husband from another life keeps stalking her too. And it's a very funny performance by Nick Frost, who it took me a minute to recognize him at first. The movie isn't afraid to go really dark with some of its jokes, jokes. I particularly like one scene where she breaks into the man's dressing room and threatens to shoot him, and his agent, also a time god, is like, well, this will help your record sales. Not every joke lands, and there's moments where it can drag a little, but when it works, it's a very clever, original movie. It's a good B. I walked into this completely cold, having not seen any trailers, but if it's playing near you and you want something fresh and funny to see, it's worth checking out. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned next week where I'll have reviews for the new Captain America, plus Paddington in Peru, and we'll see you next time.